Time now for a ride on a motorcycle definitely designed to make your buddies do a double take. Kawasaki's big bore retro sports machine, the ZRX1100. Designed with a nod to those early 80s Eddie Lawson replicas, the ZRX takes you on a trip down memory lane using 1990s technology. At the heart of this Z is a 1052cc liquid-cooled inline-4. It's essentially been lifted out of a ZX11 Ninja, retuned for more mid-range torque, and made into a 5-speed transmission. 4 semi-flat slide Keon carbs feed the Z the good stuff, while a 4-into-2-into-1 exhaust tackles the bad. And speaking of bad attitude, although from a distance this Z looks old-fashioned, the running gear is anything but. Both the 43mm fork and dual shocks out back are fully adjustable, while the 6-piston brake calipers look as if they've been lifted straight off a ZX7R. So how does this retro roadster ride? We asked the Post's David Booth and Motorcycle Online's Rob Harris to flog this green meanie.
As soon as I got on it, I thought I was 21 years old again and had a full head of hair. Absolutely, it was great. It felt instantly recognizable. That was my first impression. I mean, I grew up on bikes like this. This is what I rode when I was 18 and started thrashing bikes around the streets and stuff like that. And of course the styling is instantly recognizable as reminiscent of the old Eddie Lawson replica. So it was like old home week. It was like going back to my parents' home or some sort of familiar place like that. It was instantly familiar.
This is actually the Japanese version, which is supposed to have a limiter in, stops it from doing 190. I got it about 180 on a private test track, and I never noticed the lack of power. I mean, it just motored all the way up. It was really nice. It's the kind of thing that can get you into a lot of trouble very quickly if you're not careful.
The engine is a somewhat detuned version of the ZX11 engine, and I got to admit, when I first got on it, it's green, it's Kawasaki, and it says 1100 on the side, so that I thought as soon as I twisted the throttle, I'd be scared for my life, and I wasn't. And to me, that's why I'd buy this bike. And so it has got excellent power. It's very powerful, don't get me wrong, but it's not overwhelmingly powerful, which is what I expected. And to tell you the truth, it's what I'd want in a bike like this. This is a muscle bike. Yeah. This is a replica of an old super bike, and those bikes were hairy to ride, extremely. This one is powerful, yet a little too docile for me. I want a little more tire shredding and stuff like that. I don't need the top end horsepower going 160 miles an hour, but when I want to come out of a corner, I want that front wheel in the air, I want the tire sliding and everything else, and it could use a few more ponies in the mid-range, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot more civilized than what you'd expect when you get on it.
Oh, yeah.
But I like that, personally. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I can open the throttle without it risking of lifting up the front end and slipping you over the back, so I like the civilized part of it. But you're right, you expect when you see it that it's going to be a real tire shredder, and it's not.
I spent a lot of time on the original Eddie Lawson replica, and boy, is this an improvement. That original one, boy, the first pothole would send you to a chiropractor. The shocks were just so stiff, the forks were crude, the handling was tippy. This thing's a fairly modern motorcycle. It's like they jacked up the bodywork and put a modern motorcycle underneath. So it's a little too heavy to keep up with sport bikes, and it won't go quite around the corners with pure sport bikes, but it's more than adequate from a handling standpoint. The brakes are fantastic. And if you were somebody that was looking for a bike that looked like this, looks like an Eddie Lawson replica, but wanted a much better motorcycle, this certainly fits the bill.
Actually, one thing we didn't mention that's, I think, worthy of mention is the brakes. Front brakes are just great. Lots of power there. And the back brake is a bit numb, but that's kind of what you want. Again, sorry to keep comparing everything to the SV, but the SV locks up the rear wheels so easily. This one you can stomp on the back brake and no fear of locking it up. But then no fear of stopping either if you're just using the back brake. But the front brakes are great. It's just a really nice balance. You can grab a handful and a foot of brake and you're in control. What I really like about this, and most people would disagree with me, but I have a old GS 750 home. It's a 78, and I love it. And one of the main things I like about it is the riding position. Modern bikes, I tend to find they're over eager to get you down into either a crouching position for the sport bikes or a cruiser position where you're back on your spine. But this is just ideal. This is just the way it should be. You're upright enough so that you don't put weight on your wrist too much. You're slightly leant over so that you can cut into the wind and you don't get blown back too much. It's just ideal. I'd like to get some real time on this and see what it's like for a day's ride. But I'm really impressed. That's what struck me about it, and I wish they'd make more bikes like this.
It's very, very good. I like it. I wouldn't change anything from that point of view, the ergonomic point of view. I really like the seat. This has got a pattern somewhat similar to the old ELR. I mean, they've really been very faithful to the original, and the styling, like even the swing arm here, is not like the Lawson replica, but the Rio Racer that it was based on. That swing arm is very similar to that. So they've been very faithful, or as much as they can, to the original, and that's what impressed me most about this motorcycle. As soon as I saw it, I loved the looks. The only thing I'd change would be the exhaust system, and that's just because it's too large to meet noise standards. Other than that, I wouldn't change a darn thing about the looks of the bike. The fit and finish is great, the look is great, it's authentic. I really like it for that. It's a great stylistic triumph for Kawasaki. Probably the best looking bike in their fleet, as far as I'm concerned.
I think the pipe's pretty easy to change. It's just a bolt-on job on the back. I noticed on the SV, the actual pipe, to replace the rear of the pipe, you have to replace pretty much the whole pipe, which seems a bit silly because it's one of the first things people do generally, just replace the muffler with something that gives off a bit more of a growl, releases a few more horsepower. So that's a nice design point. That's what it should be like. Just 3 bolts and then put it straight on. Put the aftermarket pipe straight on. Fit. It's got a nice turning radius, which I noticed. You can actually do a U-turn on a road without actually going off the road or having to do a 3-point turn. So that's nice. You don't get that on sport bikes.
You know, if you're trying to send a message that about yourself, that you know that you like the 80s style motorcycle much more than the modern style motorcycle, but you're not willing to sacrifice the performance and handling, this is a good choice for you. Yeah. It really is.